Welcome to Canine Campus, podcast number 1. Today and over the next couple of weeks, we're inviting you to sit in on our most popular class at Canine Campus, Adult and Adolescent Obedience. Your trainer, Devin Gaston, will be addressing many of the common behavioral issues that arise after puppyhood and discussing the tools and techniques we'll use to address those issues. Most importantly, Devin's going to talk about the fundamentals of clicker and positive reinforcement training. So sit back and enjoy. This is the Canine Campus podcast on caninecampus.com.
And just to let you know, we're recording this for a podcast. And it's not like it's going to be like, I think Stace, are we cutting it up for the podcast?
Well, it depends
we
on
don't
how
know.
well you do. I mean,
We've got hours of Devin talking about dogs. And we're trying to make it palatable for the public. No one wants to hear me babble for 2 hours straight, so we're trying to really break it up into small, meaningful things. So the reason why we're here today and without dogs, although we got now actually 2 demo dogs, is I found that when I was trying to get everyone's head straight about sort of the basic strategies that we're going to be doing when we train, they were too distracted by their own dog to kind of hear anything, which is totally understandable. So that's why I also think it's a good idea when you're starting to figure out how to use the clicker. If you're going to use the clicker, you don't have to, and we're going to talk about what the clicker does, why you might want to use it. If you don't want to use it, that's fine. We'll talk about other things that you can use instead. It sometimes helps to, figure it out and make mistakes on my dog because Silly's pretty cool with all those mistakes. He's like, as long as treats come my way, I'm hunky-dory. So this is Silly. He's actually a registered therapy dog. He's about 3.5 years old. He's supposed to be a Rottweiler. I call him my Notweiler because, as you can see, when I first took him to the vet, I was like, he's going to be like 50 or 60 pounds, and she just started laughing. It was Emily. She was like, oh, Devin, what are you thinking? But, when you get pound puppies, they're a mystery. You never know what they're going to be. So he's my Notweiler, aren't you, baby? You are. And so I'm going to give him something to do while he's in here. I was actually talking to Stacy about this a little earlier. I actually don't feed my dogs in a bowl. They always get fed in food toys. And there's a lot of different food toys out on the market, and I like a lot of them. Originally, there actually weren't that many food toys. And the first one that I brought into our life was the Buster Cube. The problem with the Buster Cube is that it's really loud. And we have wood floors and tile floors. And essentially, my husband was going to divorce me if I did not get rid of this. He will tell you. There would be days he's like, who cares if they eat? I cannot take that another moment. What I like about Buster Cubes is they're practically indestructible. So you just put the kibble right in here, and you can actually dial them to make them more challenging. So, and if you have any kind of food toy, it helps if you put it down, and for the first few days, you're going to be helping your dog. You're going to be kicking it around and kind of showing them how it works. And then they'll figure it out in no time. So you can see he's very excited. He hasn't seen the Buster Cube in some time. He was like, woo. But if you're gone all day, if you're busy, if you can't really exercise your dog the way that you would like your dog exercised, and even if you can, I still think food toys are great. They really encourage creativity. They exhaust dogs mentally as well as physically. So I love them for active dogs, but I really love them for any dogs. And so this is actually a twist and treat. What I like about these is you can determine how easy it is. And depending on what you put in it, you can tighten it a lot. If it's like teeny kibble, so only a little comes out. If you've got big old broken bones, you can make it a little bit bigger. So this kind of has a cornucopia of stuff. You can freeze stuff. You can take their food, their regular kibble, if you mix in a tablespoon of canned pumpkin and freeze it. It makes a great sort of challenge for them. Pumpkin's good for their tummy. Also, if they're teething, frozen stuff, just like with us, feels really good on their mouth. So during the adolescent period, I froze everything. I froze absolutely everything. Now I'm a lot lazier. I mean, he's 3.5. The husky's 6. It's kibble in a food toy. That's about as motivated as I get. But if you are Kong challenged, and some people are, you can't come up with a way to block the end. Because, as you know, with Kongs, once you get the kibble in there, you got to block the end somehow. Premier came up with this. Look, it's actually a squirrel. I love this. Isn't that ridiculous? And it's literally called the Squirrel Dude, which makes me laugh even harder. But what I love about this is you can see the end is blocked with little rubber prongs. So the food goes in but doesn't just come out. So I love these. And like I said, there's so many food toys out there on the market. I think the most important thing is durability. So Kongs, black Kongs are the strongest Kongs there are. They've got carbon added. And if your dog can, I've only known one dog ever that could destroy a black Kong. So if you have a really, big time hardcore chewer, you might want to stick with Kongs or something like the Buster Cube that they can't get their jaw around. And by the way, the Buster Cubes come in different sizes. And so do the Twist and Treats. And you can see Silly is just occupying his little selfie. And I'm required to do nothing, right? All I have to do is screw it. So go Sil. Okay.
You're listening to the Canine Campus podcast on caninecampus.com.
Yesterday with someone that just wanted recalls. The problem with recalls, coming when called. Coming when called. Thank you for asking that question. The problem with dogs coming when called, or not coming when called, which is, of course, usually the problem, is when they're first in our house or they're puppies, they're Velcro dogs. So they're always coming when called. And what happens is we choose to call them to us and take away all their fun. It's like, well, now you're out sniffing, but come to me. And you know what the reward is? We're going inside. You're playing with your dog friends, but if you come to me, we're going away from all that fun and we're going inside. And I'm going to work all day, and you won't see me for 8 hours, and you might possibly be confined. So they learn that coming to us is really a bad deal. It's like, well, no. And you can see dogs that turn and look and say, is this when you're going to work? Do you have your work shoes on? Like they actually sort of debate it. And this is very common with dogs. And so recalls or coming when called is a numbers game. It's a numbers game, and so much of dog training is a numbers game. And what I mean by that is, if this is a behavior that's important to you, you've got to call your dog a minimum of 10 times a day when they don't need to come, just so they get a treat and they get to go back to do whatever they want.
So that means they automatically associate coming with positive,
with the treat. And in fact, we're going to talk about the clicker, but a lot of people end up using the clicker to get their dog to come. And there's nothing magical about the clicker. There's nothing magical about the sound it makes at all. It's just that the click means treat. It's a pure association. So don't get me wrong, if your dog's in the middle of Route 29, by all means click. But that's not really what clickers are used for, and we're going to talk about that. So with recalls, you really do. And yesterday, it was so funny. This couple said, well, he'll never come. And so we practiced in the house, come. And I actually sat there and said, come treat, come treat, come treat. So he just thought come and treat. And then we practiced in the house, and then we got outside. And the big key when you go, what happens is we tend to go from a low distraction environment like our house or the backyard to the big wide world. And it's way too big a leap. And the one step that everyone skips, and I skipped it too, and I'm a dog trainer, and I skipped it too, and I paid the price, is I didn't do a long line. So once you get reliable recalls in a lot of sort of lower distraction environments, when you hit the road, you've got to have your dog dragging a long line. It can be 30 feet, it can be 50 feet. And never let that long line get past your feet. So, yesterday, I probably recalled this dog, I kid you not, 100 times. And maybe twice, when we first got outside, I had to step on the line. And so when he realized he couldn't go forward anymore, he was like, well, okay, I guess I'll come and get a treat. But then after that, I said his name and he came for a treat. Because then he realized he could just go back out and do what he wanted. So long lines are essential. And you can go get a long leash if you want. But I can tell you, I priced these yesterday as I was going to this private. A long line leash was $18 at Pet Supplies Plus. 50 feet of very thin, light, rugged nylon cord at Lowe's was $2. I recommend Lowe's. That's my recommendation. But it's the one thing that I skipped, and I when I came back after this private yesterday, I said to Stace, I said, that's it. I'm hitting the woods with the long line. I know that I have to do this. Because the difference was these people were like this isn't even like our dog. And I was like, I know this. Why don't I do this? So that's the problem with all of us, right? So they can't know they can blow off a recall. So one of the things I would say to you, too, is that if your recall word is come, and your dog has blown you off 50% of the time, pick a different word. Because what that word basically means to them now is show up if you've got nothing better to do, right? And often, they have better things to do. There's deer poop over there. There's a squirrel to chase over there. Oh, neighbor's dog. And in fact, yesterday, that was the one thing these people said, well, this will never work when the neighbor's dog came out. And on cue, who comes out? Darla, untrained Darla, pit bull mix. Delightful dog, very cute, very friendly. And you know something? Little cutie patootie Teddy was like, you still have the meatball. I'm not going anywhere. And I was like, thank you. And then Darla was like, oh, you have a meatball? Well, then I'll stay here, too. So I then had 2 dogs following me everywhere. But a long line is really critical. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to, in fact, coming when called is part of your homework this week. So don't worry. We're going to start working on that right away. But I really like harnesses because I think there's been a huge increase in tracheal damage that's shown up in vets' offices. And it's when dogs are 4, 5, and 6. It's not like if you took your dog out tomorrow, it's going to happen. It builds up over time. Scar tissue builds up. You know the dogs. I was just on the downtown mall at the end of the leash. And they just have to go clean out the scar tissue, but who needs the surgery and the cost and all that stuff? So I'm a huge fan of harnesses in general. I think harnesses are great. So think about that if loose leash walking is important to you. But when you come here, dog on leash, flat buckle collar, just a traditional collar, head halter's fine, easy walk harness is fine. I love gentle leaders. I love easy walk harnesses. Not wild about choke chains or prong collars. So please don't do that to me. Someone actually showed up with a shock collar once, and I was like, the Howard Hall's a positive training. I don't think I can handle that one. So that's just, that's what we're looking for. And a hungry dog. A hungry dog. Skip breakfast. And bring great treats. And please bring a sense of humor because dog training is humbling business. It's really humbling business. So those are the basic rules. Also, in class, dogs do not interact with each other. As you know, this is going to be a slight challenge for Mr. Riley, although he had a couple of classes where he wasn't interacting. And this will definitely be a challenge for Mr. Dakota. These guys are in my puppy socialization class, so the dogs are used to coming here and doing nothing but play. So coming into a room with other dogs that they can't play with is a challenge for them. Now, if you want to play after or before class, that's fine. And also, if your dog goes over to another dog, please do not tug them back. Because I don't want them to think the other dog's bad. Just food in front of their face, let's go. And just kind of walk right on out of there. And I say that everywhere. Like if you're on the downtown mall with your dog, and someone walks up to you with a dog and says, oh, my dog's friendly. He got bitten right on the face by a boxer that was supposedly friendly. I keep them short, sweet, and to the point. Okay, great, thanks, let's go. I don't dilly-dally. Because leashes really mess up dogs' ability to communicate with each other. And often we walk dogs right up to each other, nose to nose, and that's the rudest thing in the world. You never see dogs do that naturally. They always curve towards each other. They usually aim for each other's fannies anyway, or shoulders, but they never go right up to their face. I mean, that's why kids get bitten, because they go right up to dogs' faces and they're dog level. So it's eye to eye, direct stare contact, and that's just not how dogs greet each other. So, I think that on-leash greetings need to be short, sweet, and to the point, no matter how well they're going. Okay, so the syllabus is on the next page. So flip past policies to syllabus. What appears in bold is the first time that we're going to cover it, but it is not the only time we're going to cover it. So, for example, for week 1, name recognition and recall, it's in bold because that's the first time we introduce it. We practice that every single week. Every single week. I think name recognition is the most important thing a dog can know. Because if they don't answer to their name, you can't ask them for anything else. So I think it's hugely... Now, you can use a look or a watch me cue if you want to. But I find that most people don't think to say the word. Like I used to teach look as a cue, and no one ever used it. They just said their dog's name 50 times. I said, hey, let's just use the dog's name as look. So that's what we did. So if down the line you're thinking of doing agility, though, it's not a bad idea to teach a look or watch me cue. Because when they're out on the course, you want them to look at you but not come to you. So that's not a bad thing. Okay, so you can see that every week we go over a trick. There's a trick a week. And they tend to be practical tricks. because I'm really completely uncreative about dog tricks. And I'm going to follow the syllabus in class. You don't have to. You can practice anything you want to practice, anything that's important to you. So if I'm covering something that you don't think is important to you or you don't think you'll ever use, practice something else. I don't care. It does not hurt my feelings. So in this class, it's kind of like a workshop. Everyone's going to have a space. You can tether your dog if you'd like, because sometimes between treats and clicking, having the leash in your hand too can be a bit of a challenge. So you can totally, set your dog up and work on whatever you want. I've had people that have come here and worked on nothing but loose leash walking, just walking through the class as other stuff is happening. I've had people that have only worked on socialization. So make this class whatever you need it to be for yourself. If you want to follow along with me, great. If there's other stuff you want to be practicing, go ahead and practice it.
Thanks for listening to the Canine Campus Positive Dog Training Podcast. For information on purchasing the training aids mentioned in this podcast, visit our website at www.caninecampus.com. We welcome your feedback. Email us at podcast@caninecampus.com.